a little crazy. Some people might think so, but that goes to for a lot of electric car drivers in general. I wanted to talk about it because I thought that here in Silicon Valley we are kind of a little oasis of Tesla universe, right? We're the first ones to get the Teslas. We're the first ones to see them, being tested around here. We are the first ones to get the problems. We also have a lot of superchargers here, and the problem of having lines that are too long. We see so many of them here that is sort of normal, where in the rest of the world, some parts of the world don't even have a single one. So I thought that would be really cool to talk to somebody who knows about Teslas here in Silicon Valley. And because it's Saturday, I get to have a guest. So I'm looking forward to it. And we're going to start right now. All right, so my guest today is Tom Melka. He runs a Tesla Silicon Valley Tesla Club at TMC, which is an online community, but he also gets to host his own events, which I think is super cool. So without further ado, guys, please welcome Tom. Tom, how are you doing?
Hey, Alex, thanks for having me. Glad to be here today.
Absolutely, man. So I thought you would be a perfect guy to talk about, what it's like owning Tesla here in Silicon Valley, and just talk about, how a little crazy we are to, especially a few years ago, like you and me kind of gave them a chance, give them a shot, and kind of, became guinea pigs, if you will. And now it's kind of becoming mainstream. We live here where, it's a norm a lot of times. So tell us a little bit about, the club and all of the cool events that you guys get to host.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes people mix our enthusiasm with craziness, but there's a little bit of both there. It's a lot of fun. Alex, you haven't been a long time owner. When we first got our cars, drivers would wave to each other. We're always very friendly and have a lot of fun just on the street because there weren't that many.
I remember
Now
that.
they're everywhere.
I remember that.
Yeah, yeah. So with that, it's funny that because you go to a supercharger, more often than not, people are going to get out of their cars and want to chat it up about your car, their car, and everything. And so there's a lot of camaraderie that comes from that because we're pioneers. And who else is hanging around the supercharger anyway? So with that, we started doing a lot of different things. Tesla Motors Club, which is a forum, anybody can access it and invite you to do so. There's different regional groups there. In this case, it's the Silicon Valley group. And we'll do meetups. We'll schedule meetups just to get together and go to an event or meet with people that are in town. And then we'll also,
Here's a picture of the one that
go.
I attended right here. And you can see, you can also see James Cook. See that little yellow arrow on your left? That's James Cook, who visited all the way from Great Britain. So I thought it was pretty cool.
That was a fun event. As a matter of fact, I had hooked up with James. There were a number of YouTubers in town for an event. And while I didn't get invited to the event, a group of us said, well, if we hang out in the parking lot, we're bound to meet somebody. So
neither have I. Neither have I. That was a year ago where I was just starting out. So yeah, we didn't get to go.
But then James Cook made a whole video out of it. So it's like a lot of fun. One of the guys brought a Chevy Bolt. So it was our first look at a Chevy Bolt and got to make our opinions about that. So it was a lot of fun. And anytime you get a group of owners together, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, and so and here's I think I have a picture of the one that you guys did recently at the let me find the picture at the Kettleman what is it, Kettleman City, right?
Kettleman City, yeah.
Yeah, so this is like one of the largest superchargers in the US. I had a wrong slide all along. Hold on a second.
Yeah, there's 40 charger stalls there. They've got their own lounge with barista. And I know, Alex, you did your own video about that location. It's something else. If you haven't seen it, go there. But yeah, so this is crazy Tesla owners. We said, hey, let's have a meetup there. So let's drive 4 hours to go to a supercharger. But the fun part about it was we had people from all over the state. They came in from the Central Coast, Southern California, and of course, Northern California. And we really did have a good cross mix. You can see the size of the group. And so we had a meetup there, and then we went up to Harris Ranch for lunch. And great time. And we had a Model 3 show up there. As a matter of fact, the last couple of meetups, we've had Model 3s. A good chance to get inside the car, test ride, and so get a good cross-section of owners.
Ron in the chat room says the supercharger is the new water cooler. How true is that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then so just to tell you how weird it is, like here the superchargers are full of cars and people, and there's a line. But like Roundstone Cowboys, he says there is a supercharger about 45 minutes away from me, and so far as I have never seen a Tesla there yet.
Really?
So this is just how opposite of the universe here is. We have a different problem that they have. And then Ben asks Ron, but I'll pose the question to you. What happens when a non-Tesla owner shows up? And have non-Tesla owners show up to your events?
Well, yeah, like I said, the factory event, we had a guy bring a Chevy Bolt, and he was part of the conversation. And it was great because we learned a lot about owning a Bolt and trying to do a long distance drive with it, with the CCS technology and stuff like that. So welcome. We're glad to talk about all EV owners.
Yeah, and I think a lot of just EV owners, they're also Tesla fans. Like even if you're driving a BMW i3 or a Chevy Bolt, right? You're an admirer, all right? I know James Cook, who was in the picture, and he's actually looks like going to be one of the guests in the next few weeks.
Right.
He said something funny. His video the other day was entitled "The Greatest Tesla Achievement: The Jaguar I-Pace." Right.
Yeah.
So this just goes to show that even people who drive other EVs, they definitely at least want to know what Tesla is all about, and kind of I think consider Tesla as a kind of pioneer, Tesla brand as a pioneer for the technology. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, and you look at early Tesla; they're providing OEM parts to Daimler, to Toyota. The old RAV4s that are electric are powered by Tesla parts. So not only that, but they're changing the automotive world. All of a sudden, electric cars are important now, not just for compliance cars, but as a solid means of transportation.
Well, absolutely, I agree. And yeah, though that's the Tesla Model 3. So have you had Tesla Model 3 yet? Tesla Model 3 owners hang out with you guys, and have you seen one in person?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was at the San Mateo Supercharger yesterday. One pulled in right next to me. But yes, the last two meetups we've had owners bring their Model 3s. And some are nice enough to not only let you ride around in the car, but to let you drive it too. So we've had a chance to really get up close and look at those cars and enjoy them. My girlfriend has one on reservation, and so there's a lot of interest in that. Big crowds around those cars.
So, and yeah, I think about 2 weeks ago I started seeing one a day here in Silicon Valley, and the other day I finally saw two a day. And I'm not talking about like at the Supercharger or the Tesla factory. I'm talking about like out in the wild, right? Just kind of driving around. Here in Palo Alto, you definitely, if you just get to Palo Alto, you will definitely see tons of Teslas. I think it's the highest concentration in the world, and definitely you'll see a few Model 3s. So, all right, so let's talk about the craziness in our heads as Tesla owners. I got mine in 2012. I pretty much knew I was going to be a guinea pig. There's going to be repairs. There's going to be shortages. There was like 5 superchargers in the whole world. Tell a little bit of, what's your opinion of what does it take to buy a Tesla, as far as just being a little bit crazy and becoming a guinea pig, and how did it evolve in the last few years? Like, what are the Tesla owners like now that they buy Teslas like this year and the previous, from all the way to like 2012 and 13?
Yeah, so the early ones, you started in 2012, I started in 2014. The people who were buying Teslas back then were the people that otherwise be buying a Mercedes S-Class or a Beamer 5 or 7 Series, that kind of thing. So you'd get people that are maybe a little bit older, more affluent, and get that maybe close to retirement, that kind of thing. And no more. No, they're there. But now what we're seeing is single people, single men, single women too. There's a lot of single women owning Teslas, and because there's CPO models out there now, you can buy a used Tesla. The prices are coming down, and it's much more affordable for a broader group of people. So we're getting a good cross section. The last meetup we had a facelift S, we had my S, we had an X, we had a 3, and a married couple, single guy, brought his parents. I mean, just a whole different mix of ages and single or married, that kind of thing.
No, that's pretty cool. And I mean, I've also noticed that a lot of times when when I talk to Tesla owners now, they're much more diverse in who they are, even like like and why they're buying a Tesla. Like when I bought it, I wanted to contribute to environment. I wanted to do something on the behalf of my generation, right? It was all big dreams and everything. And now people are buying it because it's just a better car. Like it's a better car. And someone in the chat room here, Nigel. So Nigel says if Tesla did not exist, EVs would be 20 years away. Would you agree with that?
I do. I think Tesla's done so much to further the cause of sustainable transport, and that's Elon's vision. And he's doing that because he's changing the market, not just having a nice car. He's changing the market.
Absolutely. So there are still some sort of challenges that Tesla owners have right now, electric car owners have right now. Can you talk about what you're hearing just from the members of your club? What are the what is going on right now as far as what are still the problems and issues that we're facing?
Well, charging is always a challenge. For many of us, we got chargers when we bought the car, and I had it in my house. And then my landlord sold the house, so now I live in an apartment. And I don't have a charger, so I have to figure out every day when I go to work or wherever I go, where I'm going to charge. And the good news in that is now with all the destination chargers that are coming more abundant and the build out of superchargers, it is becoming more practical. So you don't need a home charger.
Yeah, and I agree. And so, but I do know people still kind of go and supercharge at the superchargers kind of anyway. What do you think about that? What do you think about when people don't charge at home? They kind of rely on superchargers. What does it still say about the state of just infrastructure that we're in, and what Tesla has and hasn't done about that? Because there's kind of two camps. You can supercharge anytime if you're a Tesla owner, no matter what, or just only supercharge when you travel. What's your take on that?
It's more of being polite about it, if you will, or following the guidelines of not hogging the supercharger. For those that don't have home charging, absolutely. But for those that do have home charging and they don't need to use a supercharger, I mean, come on. Yeah, it's really. And I think Tesla's doing good things with that because they're monitoring it. They'll tell you, for example, if your car is almost fully charged, go move it. And they're also now, with the threes especially, going to be charging people to supercharge.
Yeah, and so let's talk about competition, right? And I mean, I was always a diehard fan of Tesla. It was kind of, I guess you can compare us to Apple fans, right? Even though I do not like Apple products whatsoever, but I feel like I am a same type of fan of a Tesla as a lot of Apple fans are. But lately I have been looking around. Like I bought an iPhone when they just came out and I was completely in love. But then little by little I started looking at the Android phones, and at first they were okay. I mean, there was just kind of imitation, not as many features. But then they started getting better in some features, or at least the same in some features, but then they ended up being a little bit cheaper and so forth. What do you think about the competition that Tesla kind of has right now coming up? I mean, we have, Jaguar I-Pace coming up, Porsche Mission E. There are a couple of cheap compact SUVs from Kia and Hyundai. We have, of course, Chevy Bolt and a BMW i3 and Nissan Leaf. And a lot of them have decent range now. A lot of them don't look like compliance cars. What do you think? Have you ever thought about maybe, hey, what if I try that?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's great because it's
Explain.
talking to an owner of one of those other kind of cars. And for example, I've talked to a couple of friends that own Chevy Bolts, and one in particular tried to drive it up to Oregon. Great, go for it. You got a nice long range, but because they have a CCS charger, trying to go up Highway 5, there's very few chargers. And as it turned out, they were pacing an i3, and every time they got to that charger, the i3 was already there hogging the charger. And so it took them that much longer to get to Oregon because their lack of infrastructure for charging. There's three reasons people are going to buy a car. It's got to have the appeal, which means good looks, drives, it's an enjoyable car to have. Got to have the range, talked about that. But the other thing that they're all missing is infrastructure. Nobody has the infrastructure that Tesla does.
Yeah, and it's true. So infrastructure. It almost I always say that the best feature of the car is outside of the car, which is the supercharger network. Now they are catching up in Europe, not here. Here, I think it's only Porsche said that they're going to try to install fast charging stations at their dealerships, which is a good start. But in Europe, there are a bunch of manufacturers like BMW and Mercedes and Ford even and a Volkswagen Group. They've invested in what I think there's up to 4 or 5 fast charging networks that are they're infant stage right now, but in a couple of years it's going to be a real competition because there's just so many of them. So yeah, the infrastructure is definitely important. Now, Tony in the chat room, he says being tethered to your home for charging isn't much of a selling point, no matter how good your car is, unless of course it's got the range of the Tesla Roadster.
Yeah,
I guess it's kind of echoing what you're saying. I have a very different experience. I've said it a few times before that my cars are lower, smaller batteries. So I get maybe 180 of realistic range, and I drive a lot, about 20,000 miles a year. But I rarely go to superchargers. I rarely drive more than 170 miles a day. That's a lot. That's 3 to 4 hours of freeway, driving and even further. So I haven't had a need. So I feel like I can get an I-Pace and be fine most of the time. Which brings me to a shameful admission that I've made many times, that when I go on a long trip, because, it takes about 5 hours to LA, but with supercharging, and if there's a line, which sometimes there is, that's 8 hours.
Yeah.
So even a huge tree hogger and Tesla and electric car fan as I am, I end up renting a gas car because I'm ashamed, but practicality and an extra 3 hours in the car, it really gets to me. So what are your thoughts about the fact that even though supercharging are faster, that you still have to be at 2-3 superchargers going on a long distance trips? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so here's the deal. Because I used to take long trips in a gas car, and when I got the Tesla, it was, you mean I don't have to just stop, quickly fill it up, grab a burger and eat it on the road? Rather, you're taking the time to sit down and have a nice lunch and or take a potty break, or it's far more civilized. It takes longer, yes, but it's far more civilized. And frankly, you're stopping every couple hours anyway. So it's just not that big of a deal. And yes, like a trip to Oregon from the San Francisco Bay Area, it'll add an hour, maybe longer, but we'll have stopped for lunch, we'll stop for coffee, and do some things that otherwise we would have never done in a gas car. And the beauty of that is you arrive there far more rested and relaxed.
That is true. And, I agree. A lot of times the superchargers in the locations where you can just go to like shopping at the mall, there's a nice restaurant, or even just like sometimes I've seen some just really nice locations to like relax and meditate, if you will. But again, for someone like me, when I go to LA, I just got to make it there 5 hours, as fast as I can. And if I have to pollute the environment, then unfortunately, sometimes I just go for that.
You need a new roadster.
Right, exactly. Let's see. So Nigel in the chat room says, so we have a lot of non-Tesla owners here, and the reason for that, we kind of have to understand. Me and you live here in the Bay Area, and the reason it's easier to afford a Tesla, and I'll read his comment in a second, is because the cost of living here is so high. All of our salaries are also very high, but the cost of cars are the same for everybody. So for us to afford a Tesla is not as big of a deal when you're paying, $3,500 for a 2-bedroom apartment, which I pay, which is insane. I fully realize it. But my employer has to pay me enough for me to afford that. But in the real world outside of Silicon Valley, so for example, Nigel makes a comment. He's a Zoe owner. He says that he's owned it for 3 years. And a Hyundai, which I'm assuming is a Kona EV, which is, compact SUV with 250-mile range that's coming out this year, would be his next car. He says Tesla is just too expensive for him. Do you see the fact that if we lived where they live and our salaries would be normal salaries, this would be a big stretch, and which leads me to the question. you see a lot of Tesla owners in your a group on TMC and in your meetups. Are most of the people in your groups billionaires and trust fund babies, and just really rich people, or do you see regular common folk, if you will, as a regular Tesla owner?
Well, like when we first got the cars 3.5 years ago, they were more affluent people. They got it instead of getting a Mercedes or something like that, but not anymore. And I think a lot of it is because so many Teslas, the used Teslas, are that much more affordable. And so we're seeing people that are regular people. It's not like there's some big rich guy or rich person, rich woman. They're all people that can want to have a good car, a right car. And instead of getting maybe a brand new Hyundai, they got a used Tesla. And, there's ways of going after it if you really want it. Another thing is, that people say, gosh, if you live in Northern California, you got to be rich. And I work for a big global corporation. And what I do here, the guy that does that in another state gets paid the same as I do here. It's not like there's some geographic differential going on. It's just you're smart about what you can afford and how you do it.
Rhinestone Cowboy in the chat room says $3,500 for a rent a month. He's asking me. Yes, and I'm sure you can attest to that. So actually, it's a 2-bedroom. It is in no way like a luxury apartment complex. It's a nice, but it's not like luxury. We don't have a pool here. We don't have like a big gym or anything like that. This is a nice but relatively average apartment. It's $3,500. It's not by far. Correct me if I'm wrong. By far, this is a deal. Yeah. And this is why my employer, I'm sure your employer, everybody else has to pay us to be able to live here and not on the street, to have, buying a house for someone like me who can afford a Tesla, I have 2 actually, is completely out of question. And I consider myself an average Silicon Valley, I'm a web developer, but engineer, if you will. So yeah, it is a weird oasis universe here. Mm-hmm. All right. KK in the chat room also says Tesla seems to be too expensive to buy and maintain. Now, I disagree with maintenance because you actually don't have to spend a penny if you don't want to, right? So there the myth dissolved. Looking for cheaper EVs from traditional manufacturers. Tony says that's crazy rent, even though it's considered a good price for you, neck of the woods. Rhinestone Cowboy says, good golly, Miss Molly, luxury apartment around here are max about $900. Wow. Don't tell us stuff like that, please. We're gonna have a stroke or live on the air if you're gonna tell us that. And Donald also makes a good point, and this is probably a question that I'll throw to you, Tom. He says Tesla Model 3 owners are more mainstream and will help educate the general population about the car. Do you believe that? Do you think the Tesla Model 3 owners are going to be more like regular people, or do you think they're still going to be Tesla fans?
They're going to be more regular people, actually. But the way people that own used Model S's now are regular people. So what we're seeing is a broadening of the base of owners who are more regular people, if you will, not big affluent people.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree, and I think that and they're probably going to be the best ambassadors, which I agree with him. So this is something that we've discussed here a few times on the show with the community. Do you think it was fair, and still is, that the current Tesla owners get the first dibs on the Model 3, where the people who really have been waiting for it, who may be not able to afford the Model S and the Model X, sort of kind of been pushed back? And for example, my opinion would be that I would have preferred the non-Tesla owners to have first dibs, because we want to expand the community. We don't want to kind of keep it in a family. We actually want to increase the family. What's your take on that?
No, I agree with you. I think to use an example, the last couple of meetups where we've had Model 3 owners come, they own a Model S as well. So they are already Tesla owners, and now they've added to their fleet. So I see your point. But part of the thing with the 3s that is a consideration, that Model 3 is a $60,000, $65,000 car. Just because they're all having the big battery now, you can only get, certain models. They're not build them all and having them all available at once.
Yeah, and people keep telling me their monthly price and of what they pay for the apartment. It just makes me cry, really. In my honest opinion, that's the username of somebody who's extremely active on in here. He says my apartment is $120 per month in the Philippines. So, and someone else said that their sister lives here. Let me see if I can. Yeah, so Tony says my sister lives out there and pays much more. So I'm telling you guys, I'm getting the deal at $3,500. But okay, so there's a really interesting question here, and this is something that I wanted to talk to you about because a lot of Tesla owners now are out of warranty, and like you mentioned, a lot of them because they, because there are pre-owned Teslas available and they can afford them now. They drive Teslas without warranty, the warranty that's just about to expire. So Prandeep in the chat room says, I wonder how much the replacement for Tesla parts when Tesla goes out of warranty. Have you experienced it either yourself or seen some of your members, when the car breaks down, which does happen? Is it worth owning a Tesla that's out of warranty?
Well, it's like buying an insurance policy. Is it going to break? And if it does, then how much is it going to cost? Personally, mine's coming up on its original warranty, and I'm going to pay the money for the extension. Just because when those little door handles breaks or something like that, and we all have our stories of what's been replaced under warranty. I mean, my whole drivetrain was replaced, and these are all things that are a consideration.
Yeah, and I have to say, there was I forgot the name of the YouTuber. He's not like I haven't seen him before, but he's got a substantial following. But he actually just did a video about he takes Teslas apart, and he basically says how expensive it is to replace parts, and that how Tesla does not even like for example, if you total your car. You're no longer priority for Tesla parts, I believe. Something crazy like that. I don't want to go on the record for that, but something crazy like that. And I'm just kind of wondering if this is something that awaits all of us.
Yeah.
And this is why I agree with you. If I'm gonna extend my lease or go over 50,000 miles on either one of my cars, absolutely 100% I will buy a warranty. I haven't had a Tesla on my third one that hasn't broken down, and I see the bills that are free for me, but I see how much I would pay, and it would be absolutely outrageous. And I think we might be heading for a problem where all these people buying, 20, 30,000, dollar Model S cars that are, 120, 150,000 miles on them, and then having $10,000 bills sometimes if something goes wrong. I had a window broken into, just a little tiny small window. Yeah. And replacing that was like $1,700 because like the molding had to be completely replaced. Everything is more expensive. So are you referring to Car Guru Asks Physics? No, there's another guy. Car Guru guy does that stuff as well, but there was another guy who actually looks very similar to him, if you ask me, because he basically has the mask on and one of those cutters, right? And he did the his channel is called Rich Rebuilds, says Arvin. That's right, Rich Rebuilds. Okay. So that's the video that got me really concerned. I'm actually thinking about doing one myself because it does sound crazy. There was another question that I saw here. That I wanted to ask you about, as people just keep bragging about the rant also. So Randy here, and this is, I'll throw this one to you. He says, I can't believe how many people I talk to that don't even know what a Tesla car is of any kind.
Yeah.
And do you agree that we live in a bubble here, that everybody knows what Tesla is and understands, and that there's a lot of work for us as brand ambassadors, if you will, to do for people who live in the real world, and to educate them on that and give them, and I think it's much easier now, and to give them sort of 411 on what how awesome Tesla is.
Well, you're absolutely right. And the funny thing is, we're in a bubble, but even with that, here in the Bay Area, a lot of people, where do you put the gasoline? Where's the exhaust pipe? And they think it's a hybrid or something, and they don't. Yeah. I volunteer for another group over here, asking me about my EV, and it's Actera is the name of it. It's an environmental group. They promote a lot of sustainable lifestyle things and stuff you can do for the home. But I'm one of several that are EV ambassadors. So they'll have an event somewhere, and people will be coming in and want to learn about EVs, and we'll talk to them about it. And even here in the Bay Area, I've seen a Tesla, but I really don't know what it's all about. And that's a chance to talk to them. So you're absolutely right. It's our role to really inform people and let them be aware of what's out there as a good alternative to gas cars.
Yeah, I mean, I still feel like, and this is such a great way to do it, right? Like on Facebook, online, on YouTube and so forth, because we can reach people who are actually genuinely interested or might be interested in this and still don't know about it. I mean, let's face it, the electric car sales are only about 1%. Compared to so there's 99% of population that we haven't reached yet or haven't convinced that these cars are better, and they are. We don't even have to lie. Like these cars sell themselves, right? When people find out about it, and that's how I bought mine, right? I walked into showroom and said, "Wait, what? Like this is a thing? Yeah. I'll take two, So it's definitely a lot of work. So. Which brings me to this. Why don't you tell us about what's coming up for you, either in-person events for the Silicon Valley Tesla group, or something that's interesting that's going on TMZ in your sort of little corner there that you have.
Well, a couple of things that TMZ will do, and I encourage again everybody. Tesla Motors Club. It's open for everybody, even if you don't own a Tesla. And every June there's an annual convention that we have. And this last year it was in Monterey. The year before it was in Reno. The year before that was in Santa Clara. But they'll bring in experts from around the world on what's all about EVs, and then specifically Tesla. But the last one in Monterey, I was sitting right next to the guy from Spain who runs the electric GT racing program in Europe, and got all that information about it and everything. It's very exciting. I was sitting in front of Steve Wozniak. He's a big EV guy, and he was right there. We're chatting it up with him, and so you mix it. And then they had an event at Laguna Seca where it was just electric vehicles. It wasn't just Tesla, but electric vehicles. And we had a chance to go out on the track and run time trials and drive our cars on the track. It was a lot of fun. So worthy of note for coming up in June. The other stuff that any EV interested person should think about is the Plug-in America activities. They're usually in September, and that'll be all over the United States and around the Bay Area. There's like 4 or 5 locations around the Bay Area here.
I think they're called, what are they called?
Plug-in America?
Yeah, that's I think, but the events are called... I've gone to them many times. Actually, that's where I saw the new Nissan Leaf for the first time. Drive Electric Week, right?
Drive Electric Week. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and so there's those kinds of things that go on. The group Actera will have events at different companies around the Bay Area. If the company wants to promote EV usage and stuff like that. So there's different one-off things like that in the local communities as well.
And DRK in the chat room says Plug-in America has been an awesome org. Let's see. Interested to find out price list for parts for Model 3, says Tesla PD5D. That's a username, by the way. And we're still going back to how expensive it is to fix the Tesla, but I'll leave that at that. So tell people also how they can find you, how they can join your group, and do you welcome only people from Silicon Valley, or do you welcome people from other, physical locations? Tell us about that.
Yeah, what's exciting when you go to the forum, which is TeslaMotorsClub.com, you'll find that there's regions all over, not the country, the world. I mean, there's guys from Norway, there's guys from Australia, there's people from all over the world that are Tesla owners, and they have their own chat areas about subjects that are important to them. For example, if you want to know about right-hand drive Teslas, that's the place to go. So there's a lot of information like that. Then there's a lot of topics. So if you have an interest in Model 3 parts, for example, you can look that up and see what people are talking about that. The other thing is there's an event section. And the event section, there's one overall for big events, and then there's event sections by location, by area. So, for example, Silicon Valley. But when we've had our meetups, I'll post it on Silicon Valley. I'll post it on Northern California. I'll post it on Marin County, and then we've got a San Francisco group. Because, frankly, like when we went to Cattleman City, we're from all over the state. So, we're not unique to one particular area.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I also have a Facebook group for the Tesla Model S owners, and also for Tesla Model 3 owners. And that's the one that I've created for the Model S was pretty much when I was feeling very lonely as far as the Tesla owners are concerned. It was like just maybe a few hundred of us. So, and it kind of grew to 20,000 members. By the way, I completely forgot. I should mention that this channel, this video is sponsored by Evanex, the aftermarket accessories for Tesla, which I think you have a few things from them as well, right?
Back in 2014, the Model S didn't have a console, and it was Evanex that made the center console insert. It was the only one you could get, and I have to this day still have one, and I've gotten a lot of their other parts too. The rim guards are really good, and they've got some good stuff.
Yeah, and I always want to make sure that if I am promoting a company on the show, that it's something that I'm a fan of and a customer of. I'm not just taking their money. I'm actually believe that their product is good for their community. And they actually came up with a discount code that people can get in the description of this video. And another thing, I encourage everybody to also give this video a thumbs up so it does much better. You feel free to do that, Tom, too, as well. You have a browser in front of you right now, so. Yeah, so everybody who's watching, please go ahead and give this video a thumbs up so it does well after that. Tom, obviously we can probably spend a couple hours talking about this. It's always great to hang out with you either in person or online. I'm gonna try to make your next event. I already have a show scheduled to this, as I believe it was going to be next week, right?
Yeah, actually, we're going to a drag strip in Sacramento on the 17th.
Sounds like fun. I hope you guys see some semi trucks on the way there. I have a show already scheduled. So for those of you guys who don't know, I do the Saturday shows with a guest now. The next week I have Roger Atkins, who is has a huge following on LinkedIn, over 200,000 people, has a very interesting opinion. He is going to be going live with us from Great Britain. And the week after that, it looks like James Cook, also from Great Britain, will be the guest, and I'm planning to have a few other exciting guests every Saturday. So, Tom, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I will, if I don't see you next Saturday, I'm sure I'll see you shortly. But thank you so much for your opinion and for being here. Have an amazing Saturday afternoon.
Okay, thanks a lot, Alex. Appreciate being here. Appreciate the conversation.
All right. Okay. So guys, this is as always been fun. So like I said, if you want to find Tom, he is all over the place, but TMC is where he's hosting his groups. His get-togethers are always fun. So I strongly recommend that you guys go and check him out. Let me remind you that tomorrow we are getting here together for our virtual hangout. We're gonna have some fun. We're gonna go over everything that's happened this week, which was a lot because of Geneva Auto Show. I'm gonna answer more of your questions. I'm sorry I couldn't get to all of them here. I see there are a few more. Samer and Tony and a few others. Come back and join me again tomorrow. I'll answer all of those questions when I'm sure if there's some particular ones that are still for Tom, I will forward it to him. All right. Well, it's been fun. I really appreciate hanging out with you. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow at 11 o'clock Pacific time. But don't forget, we're switching times today. What do you call it? The daylight time. So don't forget to do that. And I will see you tomorrow. Other than that, remember to stay charged.